Hello, little ones. You cannot build a peaceful life and keep binging on chaos. I'm going to talk to you guys about social media and negativity and cultivating a more peaceful, positive life with more positive things, and of offsetting that imbalance with negative media, especially in the day and age we're in now. And a lot of times we don't even realize it's happening. We just get caught in the whirlwind of world news and blame it on anxiety and other things when in reality, it's really just something that we can adjust and change and make sure we're a little more conscious about. So, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to do a little nail and talk to you guys about my thoughts on this. So, let's get into it. It only took me 8 years to get the stuff to plug in. But I do my nails like cheap Gel X because the first time I had Gel X done on my nails, I was literally like, did I just pay to get some nifty press-ons put on? So I started paying attention after I went for a little bit longer, and it's pretty darn easy to figure out. So going to plug in all of my gadgets and then chatting about the topic. First, I'm gonna buff off the shine a little, get my cuticles. But have you noticed how everybody is anxious now? But then also, everybody's screen time is fucking more than 3 hours a day, which when you think about is actually crazy that we spend even, which I feel like that could be on the mild side for people who are on their phone a lot, spending that amount of time looking at a phone screen when we could literally be doing anything else. And don't get me wrong, I have had my struggle with screen time in the past as well. And the reason I'm making this video is because this is something that I recently started actually. I was always aware of this, but I just recently started actually acting on it because just the nature of everything going on in the world right now, which I also know and I acknowledge is privilege to be able to shut certain things off for the day, but I think it's also a little bit of self-care because when you're constantly consuming negative ideas and stories and things going on, it kind of surpasses the point of staying informed. And it's to the point where it's detrimental to your mental health. And honestly, I think it's really important to limit screen time for that reason, or at least your time on media. And even just making sure that you counteract as much negativity as you see, you should try to watch some positive videos and positive media, or even just things that don't tell you about how awful things are right now. Because just like anything, thoughts are also habits, and the thoughts we think about things are habits. And you can break down those habits if it's a habit that you no longer want to have, but you can also make it worse, especially when you don't realize that it's a habit to be negative. And I've used this analogy so many times, so if I've said it before, I'm saying it again for a reason. But if you go outside in search of a yellow car, you're gonna see a yellow car. And same thing for a red car, a blue car. If you say that you don't want to see one of those things, guess what? You're still going to see it a lot because you brought it to your consciousness and you're worried about how much you don't want this thing to happen. And you end up getting in this self-fulfilling prophecy because you that's what your mind is focused on. And I think this goes for a lot of things in life. When you're thinking about how awful you're being treated at work, it usually keeps happening unless you do something about it. And you're always thinking about it, so you're always dreading it, and it's going to cause anxiety. It's just like if you consume a bunch of media of people getting hurt or political things, there's always political shit going on, and just let yourself completely be immersed in that. You're not going to find any peace. And I said this is definitely speaking to Americans right now because I know that as much as we want to say that we're not privileged, we are very blessed in many ways. And so I understand that this is a privilege to be able to turn these things off, but there are literally countries that are war ridden right now, and I know that staying informed for them and spreading their story is just as important, being a witness to the pain But at the same time, you can inform yourself without consuming literal traumatizing media. And I think that it's literally set up for you to keep seeing those things. And so some people might be in an okay mindset to handle a lot of that information coming at them at once. But I personally I really don't like, especially seeing children get hurt or a mother losing their children. And I have a really hard time seeing that. And then also on the other side of things with politics here, so there's basically two sides to the politics, and both sides are really harmful and hate fueled towards each other. And I'm a firm believer that not a lot gets accomplished doing things from hate. And you can take that how you may. I'm not going to elaborate more on that because this isn't a political podcast, but there's just a lot of division right now, and seeing a lot of polarizing things on the internet and people regurgitating things without actually looking into and forming their own opinion about them, whether your opinion ends up matching the one you saw or not. I think that a lot of people just take like a story and saying, oh, this was whatever. I don't want to say anything specific because I don't want to cause any issues, but making sure that you actually look up if certain stories are verified or if people are just theorizing, because although a theory might make sense, theory is different from fact, and this goes for all sides of the conflict. And I'm just a firm believer that love prevails all, and it's really hard to see a lot of hateful things said on the internet, people wishing death on each other, and I would assume that there's other people who are also really struggling with anxiety and the things that they're seeing and just getting into those rabbit holes of despair. And I'm here to tell you that unfortunately it is within your responsibility and it is within your means of control to change how you feel about using social media and seeing those things on social media. And so also limiting how much you see the news. And at this point, if you're using the news as a reliable news information source, you need to be aware of and understand what news stations have which biases in how they're presenting the story and how they want the story to be believed and regurgitated, and be very aware of that. And I think that it's really important to know that you are not immune to propaganda, and that's for both sides. And you are also a human who has experienced a life that I'm sure can only be fully understood by you. And so all the things you think and believe make sense to you. And I want to say that that could be the same for the person standing across from you in the conflict. And it's really important to spread your message with love and understanding of yourself and your position, and understanding in the sense of you don't have to agree with them, but we should not dehumanize each other, because that's not how anything gets solved, right? And I think that consuming this negative media is making us think negative things more often than not, and makes us therefore negative people. And I think it's really important to control that and be aware of the thoughts that you're choosing. And it is proven that our brains listen to us and that they recreate patterns and understand. Our minds are very interesting. There's a book called Your Brain is Always Listening by Dr. Amen. You should read it and you would understand why it's important to limit those things and those things that you're consuming. On a real note, you guys, I have intermission right now because I have to push back my cuticles and it always gives me the heebie-jeebies. So, oh, but next step after I buffed all my nails, which takes 5 minutes maybe, I push back the cuticles so that way they stay on for longer, and the instructions tell me to, so I just do what is tried and true. But some other things that you can try to do to make sure you're not consuming too much negative media is to, if you have a faith or practice, I am Christian, and so therefore I try to make sure that I spend time with God every day, whatever that means for you. Sometimes spending time with God or Jesus means watching The Chosen, and sometimes it means reading the Gospels, and sometimes it means staring in a field. So just some quiet time. If you're not religious, meditation is a good time to spend positively and actually be able to buffer your own thoughts versus thoughts that are not your own. And that helps a lot to limit that kind of negativity. After I push my cuticles back, then I need to flash cure. Well, I need to find my sizes, because I don't know why I didn't do that. And you want it to be wall to wall with no squeezing, whatever that means. So that is my thumb. The worst part is finding the match. I'm pretty sure that I always get slightly different. Luckily, these aren't very long either. I really like the long ones, don't get me wrong. But I work online, so sometimes typing on the computer is very challenging. I try to find the ones that I know I'm not going to use and fish them out because I want to make sure. I'm not even sure if these are the ones. I think they are. There's a gloss on them, so I can't really. I don't know, it's fucking with my eyes, alright? But let me do this because I can't talk at the same time. Alright, y'all. Lord help me. Yes. This is the hardest part. I'm not good at this part. The one thing I don't like about these, I really like it. There's a very subtle pattern on some of them to make them look like rose goldish. Or not rose gold. Like a rose quartz. Now I just need these to look the same. Heck. And then put these somewhere out of the ASMR for you. But now we'll flash cure them. But like I was saying, it's very important to know your own thoughts, not just the loud ones, but a good way. And the one thing that I think is very helpful is that I understand the perspective of what the Bible is teaching now through also through the lens of New Age spirituality, because I'm starting to put together the pieces of how it's the same shit, literally. So, for example, knowing if it is God talking to you, which I would equate to your intuition in New Age spirituality. It's if the Bible backs it up, and for intuition, it would be if there's some sort of rules that you follow, if they back up what your thoughts are saying. So if it's something that's extremely negative, for example, you probably would want to countercheck that and see if it's something that's scriptural if you are a Christian. But if you're not, then I would check whatever doctrine you believe in. If you don't believe in a doctrine, then whatever morals you set up for yourself. If you haven't set up moral guidelines for yourself, I will never do these things, or these are the things that I think are important and things that a good person would do. I would highly recommend that you sit down and think about that, because that's very dangerous mindset to be in. And I think that that's why people are turned away by Christianity or religion, is because they don't like the restriction, or how, you know what I mean? And so I think that setting your own rules and figuring out what a good person means to you, and seeing if those thoughts align with the things that you would tell a friend. So if your thoughts are telling you that you're gonna die and all this shit is going on, you should probably just see if do a little sanity check. It's really good to do that for yourself. And I think it's important that a lot of people have those guidelines for them to follow. But I'm going to do the other hand. So now I'm going to put a little bit of gel in there and flash cure for a little bit, and then long cure under the big lamp. So I'll probably speed this part up a little bit to get the rodeo going. I think we did it, gang. Now I'll do all the fingers and come back. So I did my left hand, and it's in the light for 30 seconds more. I put it in for 60 seconds. So I flash cured to keep it in place under the gooseneck lamp, and I put it in there. And I'm just using this X-Coats Tips glue, and I put a bead in there. Flash cure, long cure, and it feels really thick. And what I'll do after this is paint some of this one on the underneath, just so it's a little bit more structured and stable for when I'm lifting weights. So now I'm going to do the other hand. This is what they look like. They're super nice, and they have that gloss on them. I'm just finishing the right hand. It only took me maybe 30 minutes, but I'm also yapping, and I had to get the setup going and all that good stuff. But all in all, really make sure that you check your sources and find out your own information. Think some of your own thoughts for most of the day. I use the app Opal to block my screen from 4 to 6 because that's when I work out, and then 4 to 6 a.m. And then during the work week, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then I also block it from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. And then during the weekend, I give myself an extra hour or two, depending. If I'm being productive, then I award myself. But if I am not being productive, take it away. So, that's all, friends. I will let you guys know how long these last. They feel sturdy, but who knows with lifting weights. Bye. Ciao,